Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is the first time you'll see my face, my name is Sunwa, or you guys might know me as Sunwa. And today, I want you guys to get to know who I really am, and I want to share a bit of my story. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my personal story and how I got to where I am here today. And I just want to say thank you for all the support that you guys have been showing me recently. And you guys are honestly, literally changing my life. And for that, I want to do the same back and show you what's helped me to get to where I am now and what has helped me genuinely in life and what has helped me to change my life. And I want to share that with you guys today. A lot of you guys may know me as Sunwa. My name is Brandon and I am currently living in Spain. But it wasn't always like that. I was actually born in London. So I was born and raised in London, which is why I've got this is why I speak like this. So I was born in South London, and the time I was born in South London, it wasn't the best of times. South London was like a dangerous area. There was a lot of like gang violence going on, and Brixton was the exact area I was born in. Anyway, fast forward now many years, they met, they got married, and they opened up a Chinese shop. And I was born into this Chinese shop. So it was a Chinese takeaway in Brixton. And all I ever knew from my childhood was this Chinese shop. And at the time when I was growing up, it was fine. It was good. My dad taught me many things. He taught me how to cook, how to cut. So I was always at this restaurant. I remember I was always in this restaurant, and my dad would always help me. So whenever he would do the shopping, I'll go with him. Whenever we'll come back, I remember standing on this stool, and he used to tell me like, peel these prawns. And I used to peel these, and I used to peel these prawns. And it was good. Like, my parents would always make sure that I had everything I ever needed. Like, they always made sure I had everything I ever needed. My parents had this Chinese takeaway, and we had a house that we were living in, which was literally like 10 minutes away. And when I got into secondary school, my parents decided that they were gonna rent out this house, and we were gonna turn the basement of the restaurant into where we were gonna live. And I remember when that happened, when they were deciding that they wanted to make this change, I remember they asked me, what do I think about it? So there was a point where we still had the house and we still had the restaurant. And I was still young at the time, so I didn't really understand. At that age, we weren't really exposed to like bullying. We weren't exposed to like criticism. We weren't exposed to like this type of, I don't know, controversial minds, or people that can have a sort of different viewpoint to you, or can just, yeah. So it was mainly that. And so we were still having this transition period where it was either we lived in the house or we lived in the shop. And I believe it was just due to the financial situation where they wanted to rent it out for a better financial situation. So we were living in this shop, and we finally made the transition to move our whole way of living into the shop. So now we started to live underneath the shop. And when I got into the first year of secondary school, which we were around like maybe like 14, I realized then and there that, oh shit, like, this is a cold world. Everyone, especially in London, like, is like super judgmental. A lot of people, there's a lot of exposure to bullying. Like, there's no filter when it comes to that. And me as a person, I've always been like an emotional person. I've always been an overthink. I've always been a person where I struggled a lot with my emotions. And at this point, no one knew that I lived in a shop. But then how I saw how people reacting, and like, I've started to become very self-conscious of everything, and I became very insecure. And living in that shop was one of my biggest insecurities. Like, I didn't want to go to school, because to go out to the road, to go to school, to make my way to school, I had to open up the shop and then leave. And I remember all those school kids would see me come out this door, and like, they'll be like, what's going on? And I used to hate that feeling. Like, I used to feel like I was like being judged. I was feeling, it was like one of the worst feelings ever. And I remember what I used to do is I would make sure I would leave my house literally an hour earlier, just so I didn't have to see any kids when I was making my way to school. And a few years went by, and that was like one of like my big insecurities. So fast forward 17 years now. I'm 17 years old. Now I've gone to college, and I am still living in the shop. No one knows I live in the shop. No one knows I live in the shop. And so now someone comes in and makes an offer to buy my dad's shop. And I remember someone, I was actually the one that served the guy. So the guy, I always used to be serving the phones, counters, like we used to do everything. Like the family, we used to do everything. And I remember it got to the point where the restaurant, my dad was doing so much. Like my dad got to a point where he was doing the cooking of both chefs, because normally the structure of a Chinese takeaway is you have someone that takes phone calls and orders, which would normally be me or my mum. Then my mum would be the one that would be closing the containers and the food. And then you have a delivery driver, and you have the second chef, and you have the main chef, which is my dad. So you have around 5 people. But then it got to the point where the delivery driver left, the main chef, the second chef left, and it was just left me, my mum, and my dad. And it got to the point where it was me helping my dad close the containers. It was me helping my dad answer the phone calls. It was me helping my dad with a lot of things. And then my mum would help a lot. My mum like played a big part in this restaurant, where she was helping doing the containers. It got to a point where she was doing the deliveries, and my nephew would come help out on the weekends. And then it got to a point where when my mum couldn't do it, my dad would do the cooking, the deliveries, the closing. And it just got to a point where it was so much. It was literally like so much. And I got to a point where I was at the age you start to rebel. You start to see things from a different angle. I started to become very arrogant. I started to hate where I was. I felt insecure. There was a lot of demons I was struggling with, because at a young age you don't know how to express them. And I was a person where I was very quiet. I was very quiet. I never really used to speak much, and I was very self-conscious. So that happened. Someone came in. I remember someone came in and they said, "We're interested in buying the business." And I was like, "This is impossible. There's no way." Like I thought I was dreaming, and my eyes lit up, like literally lit up. And I remember I went to the kitchen, and I said to my dad, I was like, "Dad, someone wants to buy the business." And my dad was like, "What?" And we had been planning on selling the business, because my mum was suffering a lot, because where we lived downstairs in the basement, there was a lot of humidity. And in this basement, whenever it used to rain a lot, there was like the sewage at the bottom, and the whole floor will like flood with like poo. Like it will flood with the poo of the toilet. So we would come home and the floor will literally be flooded with poo, and we'd have to clean it up, and it was just like it was a horrible experience. And I remember where the wardrobe was, like it was a wardrobe, and that used to fill up with a lot of like human feces, and we'd have to clean that up. And there was a lot of humidity. There wasn't much sunlight, because it's in a basement where there wasn't any sunlight at all. So my mum used to suffer from a lot of like pains in her body, and like she used to go through a lot of stuff. We got this offer. A few months went by, and they had agreed to sell the business. I couldn't. And at that point, when they had agreed to sell the business, I couldn't believe it. Like for me, I didn't know how to feel, because when I was living in that shop, every day felt eternal. I felt like I would never come out of that situation. I felt like this is where I was going to die. That's how I felt at that point. And when we sold the business, we managed finally to get rid of everything. We ended up moving over to my sister's house. So she had a house, and she let us stay with her in that house. So I would stay with my two nieces, my sister, and my dad, and my mum. So we stayed there for some time. I finished college. I didn't finish college actually. I studied art. I studied art for like most of my life. That was one of my main hobbies that I used to like. I studied art, and when I studied art, like I was quite rebellious, and I thought I knew better. That was my issue. I always thought I knew better. So once I didn't finish my course. I finished like 11 modules. I didn't finish the course, And then I ended up trying to chase football. So then I was at that time doing a lot of football, and I was focused on football. Then I ended up going to a football academy when I was 17. I think I was like 17. I went to a football academy. I started to play football for this academy, started going. And then I tried to come out to Spain to try out for a team out here in Spain. So I'm living with my sister. And then my parents, they bought a house here in Spain, and they decided to move over to Spain. So my parents moved over to Spain, and I ended up staying in London. So there was a football opportunity out to trial with one of the local clubs here in Spain. So I left London for a year. I came out here to Spain. I tried to go out with a team, and anyway, fast forward a few months in training, I ended up having an injury on my knee, and I ended up like tearing my meniscus and having like a major knee reconstruction. So basically, I practically sabotaged my knee. So at that point, like, I didn't know what to do, because all I ever knew from there was I didn't finish my studies. I wanted to be a footballer like every young kid wanted to be. It never happened. And I was like, oh shit, like, what do I do now? So being at that point, like, you get to a dark place. I was already going through a few things. And then I said to myself, you know what? Let me do like a fitness course. It was a free fitness course. My friend had called me. He was like, bro, there's a fitness course. Do you want to do it with me? It's free. I was like, it sounds good. So I left my family. I left my parents, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm going to leave Spain, and I'm going to try to make my future out in London. I had to end up living on my sister's sofa. So I was staying on her sofa. I was living on her sofa while I was trying to get my life together. So I'm around 18 or 19 years old, and I'm living on the sofa, and I'm doing this course. So the course was a full-time extensive course. It was from 9 till 5 p.m. Stay on the memory. It was from 9 to 5 p.m. and 9 to 5 p.m. from Monday to Wednesday, but I had no money coming in. I had to find a job. So a friend called me and he says, I've got a job for you. Is being a waiter and being a barista, which is like from making coffee. I was like, anything. I need a job. So I would wake up. I would work Monday to Wednesday. I'd have college, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I'd work at this coffee shop and restaurant. So I started work at 8 in the morning till like 4 in the evening. I'd have an hour break and then work from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Then there was an issue. So I worked at this place for a month, and the guy never paid me. I never got paid. So the way it worked is I would work 1 week, and then I would have no money to pay for transport. And I would go to the guy, his name was Gabriel. I was like, Gabriel, I need you to pay me. Like, I have no money for transport. And I remember he'd be like, I've got £20. Is that okay? I'm like, well, I didn't know what to say. Like, I at that time, I felt so small, I couldn't speak. So I'd accept anything. The second week would come, I'd be like, Gabriel, I need money for transport. And he was like, I've got £50. And I was like, okay. And then the third week came, and I was like, Gabriel, I need some money. And I don't know what he done, but he gave me like £200. At this point, he owed me around £900. So I don't know, it was like 900 time, but it was around £900. So anyway, he gave me like £300. He gave it to me. I had quickly gone to the shop and come back, and I didn't have the money anymore. I'm a person that take care of my stuff, and I've never lost money like that. Straight after being paid, I didn't have the money anymore. I can't remember exactly what happened, and I went up to him. I said, Gabriel, I don't have the money you gave me. He's like, that's not my problem. I paid you. So all of that to get 300, and I never got paid. Scrap that. At that point, I said, you know what? I can't stay here anymore. And I left that job. Bear in mind, I'm still staying at my sister's sofa. And this is why I say to you, I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. So at this point now, I have practically zero pounds in my account. I think I probably had like what, maybe like £80 or £60 in my account. So there was a guy in his class, which is a good friend of mine now, and I never used to speak to him much. I barely exchanged words with him, very little. And for some reason, on that day, I remember exactly where I was sitting. I was sitting on like the common area, I was sitting down. I was in my thoughts. And out of nowhere, this is why I'm a high believer of the way you treat people, though, everything comes back to you. And I'm a big believer that God, I don't know if you believe in God, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, there's someone out there that is always looking after you. Out of nowhere, and I had been asking, I need to find somewhere to live. I can't stay living on the sofa. I was sitting on, like, I was in this common area, and he comes up to me. He says, "Bro, you seem stressed. Like, what's happening?" And I never really express myself and tell people like what's going on, especially someone that I've never spoken to. I don't know why. I said to him, I was like, "Bro, I'm stressed. I'm really stressed. I'm looking for somewhere to live, but I'm struggling right now. I'm actually struggling." And me, like, I'm someone that has a lot of pride sometimes, and I don't like to ask for help. And out of nowhere, he tells me, he's like, "Wait there." He takes out his phone and he calls his sister and he puts her on loudspeaker right then and there. He puts her on loudspeaker and he says, "My friend needs help. He needs somewhere to live. Can he stay in your house? How much can you charge him?" And then she said, "550, which is a very good price in London." He said, "No, that's too much." She said, "450. He said, "No, that's too much." She said, "350. He said, "No, that's too much. Help him out." 250. You're not finding rent for 250 anywhere on this earth in London. Like, in London, it's impossible. I could not believe it. Just then and there, within a space of like 10 minutes, he managed to get me a place to live for £250 in a very good area. I couldn't believe it. And I said to myself, why are you out of all people, you think about it, he just met me. If anything, he should be trying to look for the benefit of his sister. He should be looking after her, like trying to make money for her, but he wasn't. He was looking after my intention. He was looking after me rather than his sister's pocket. And till this day, I will never forget that deed that he's done for me. And I owe him so much, just because at that moment, I was in so much need and like in so much stress that he was there for me. And I didn't even know him that well at that point. So that happened. Fast forward now, I started hanging around with the wrong people. I started hanging around, like, had bad influences, and then I ended up doing things I would never do. So I was brought up in a good home. My parents would always teach me the correct ways. My parents would always educate me in fine ways. And because now I was surrounded by another type of influence, I thought I was a cool kid. I thought I was one of these people and tried to enter worlds I didn't know. So there was a time where I tried to do like a little drug deal without having any education or any knowledge about how that goes. Anyway, as you know, if you fool around and play around with things you don't know, if you play with fire, you get burnt. And that's what happened. I got into this drug deal. Didn't go right. And then I ended up owing someone some money. And then now we had another problem, because now I'm thinking, how am I going to pay for this? Like, I have no idea. And the guy was like, "You got 3 days to pay for this." I was like, "Oh, damn. Like, how am I 3 days to pay for this? How am I going to pay for this?" And then I had to sell my laptop. I had to sell my camera. I had to sell so many things. And I have someone, he's like a brother to me. And at that time, like, we were like addicted to Xbox. We'd always play Xbox. And I was like, "Bro, I need money." You know what he done for me? He sold his Xbox. And he gave me the money. That, for me, was a strong message. Yeah, so I managed to gather the money in like 2 days, thanks to the help of like a lot of people. And I remember going back to him and giving him the money. Like, I never felt more humiliated in my life. That happened. And then there was a more reoccurring occasions where I just felt very empty with my life, or I felt like mad empty with my life. And I remember now at this point, I was working two jobs. I was doing Uber Eats, which is delivering food on bicycles, and I was working in a retail store in Notting Hill. It was called Scotch and Soda. Scotch and Soda, yeah, it was Scotch and Soda. So I'd work from 9 in the morning till 5 in the evening doing Scotch and Soda, and I would cycle to work. I would cycle to work from Canary Wharf every day, which was like an hour cycle. So I would cycle to work for an hour, and when I cycled to work from there, I cycled to Notting Hill 1 hour, and I'll work. Then from work, I will turn on my Uber Eats, and I will start to do deliveries, hoping that each time I get delivery would bring me closer to my home. If anyone's done Uber Eats, then you'll know. So, like, I would do Uber Eats from like 5 p.m. to like 11 p.m. And that was what I was doing reoccurring. I was doing that for a few months, 5, 6, 7 months, I think. And then I started to be around people that used to smoke, that used to drink, and I was like, you know what, let me try it. And I got to a point where I was getting addicted, not addicted, but I started to smoke, and I was smoking consecutively every day for like a month. It was like a month, like a 1 month window. And I started to smoke and drink every day, drink by myself in my home alone. I was doing Uber Eats and I was working full time, and that was my routine. I was just working two jobs and I kept on working. And I was still hanging around the wrong influences. I was hanging around people that used to smoke. I was hanging around people that used to drink. I was hanging around people that used to consume. So as it normally goes, tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are. I surrounded myself with the wrong circle and I ended up starting to consume. It was one day, I don't know what day it was. I came home, closed my door, and the way the house was set up, it was alone, it was dark, there wasn't many things in this house. I started drinking and I sat on the floor, I remember. So the sofa was here, like basically what here is, and the TV was here, and I literally sat on the floor underneath the TV by like the fireplace, and I connected my music, and I was just listening to music there with no lights on. I was just alone with my thoughts, and then out of nowhere, like a picture of it was a picture of my dad that just for some reason came into my head. I don't know what happened. Like I just started crying. I was crying, like crying as if I was mourning. It was a reaction that I've never cried like that before. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't understand why I was crying. And then I questioned myself. I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I really doing? What is happening? This isn't me. Like, this isn't me. And when I was in this state of mind, I said to myself, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm no longer gonna do this anymore. And I prayed, and I asked God to help me and to help me change my life. And I prayed to him and I said, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. This isn't me, and I don't want to live this life anymore. And straight after that, I got rid of everything that was in my house, and I got rid of all like the alcohol, and I never ever touched that again. And I stopped associating myself with the friends that I had. The friends that I had, they're not bad people, they just have bad habits. And I couldn't be around because we're like a sponge. When you're around bad habits, you pick these up quickly. The next day, I had stopped associating with my friends, and I said, I'm gonna change my life. I didn't even sign up to the gym. My nephew was paying for his gym membership, and I said to him, like, yo, bro, can I use your gym membership? Like, can I use your gym membership? And he was like, yeah, that's cool. You can use my gym membership. So I'm still working these crazy times. So I was working from 9 a.m. till probably like 11 p.m. And when 11 p.m. came, now instead of going and meeting my friends, I would go to the gym. And the first time I went to the gym, I didn't really like it. Was okay. Like, I mean, it's cool. Bear in mind, I had studied this fitness course, but I was still like very skinny and I didn't really understand like the concept of gym. And I kept on going because I said to myself, you know what, instead of being out spending money or being around bad influences, let me try to do something positive. Everyone talks about gym as something positive. So let me go to the gym. So every day I'm going to this gym. So I'm going on YouTube and looking for these videos, how to do chest, how to do back, how to do legs. And I'm training. So I do one day, then my chest is hurt. I'm like, I like this pain, you know, like I like this pain. Then I do back. I'm like, I like this pain, you know, I like this pain. Then I do legs. And it was a consecutive thing. Consistently started going. And before you know it, I started going to the gym and I felt good. I ended up spending hours in the gym. I would finish work at 11 and I would end up finishing gym at 3 in the morning, go home at 4, then sleep like 4 hours and then do the whole routine. And that's how it started. So everyone's asking me, oh, can you train me? How did you do this? How did you do this? Asking me all these questions. I knew how to do it, but I didn't really know how to do it. So I said to myself, you know what? Everyone say, why don't you become a personal trainer? I was like, you know what? Why don't I become a personal trainer? I looked online, I done my research, and I saw that I could do a course for my level 3 personal trainer online. So I could do everything online. And because at that time I had to work and I had to pay for my rent and I had to pay for my stuff, I couldn't leave work to do the course. So I had to get this course, and the course is 3,000. I remember it's £3,000, but I could pay it in installments. So I paid it in like 72 months or something ridiculous. Like, I think it was like nearly 3 or 4 years that I paid it in. And I took out this course and I got a new job. I got a new job at another retail job. And when I worked at this retail job, like, it was one of the best times of my life working in this retail space. Like, these people are still like my family today. So like, they were so good to me at this place. They let me study my course while I was there. When it wasn't busy, I could sit down and like do my course. I remember the manager, she used to tell me, Brandon, like, make sure you study. And like, she had like a lot of faith in me. She was like, oh, you should do this. She wasn't really fixated on me working there and just saying, oh, you need to do this, do that. She was very much a person that was like, Brandon, you should do this. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? And she always said, well, you should be an actor. You should do this, do that. Like, finish your course. I think it'll be good. And she always encouraged me to like do stuff. So I remember I've been very blessed in that part where I stayed in this job for, I think it was like maybe 3 years. I finished my personal training course there. And then I went to Colombia. When I went to Colombia, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to get a job as a personal trainer. Came back, downsized where I was living from a studio flat into a 1-bedroom apartment. That was hell in itself. Living in a 1-bedroom, that was crazy. Anyway, I downsized to a 1-bedroom and then I got myself a job in the gym. Long story short, there was news of a pandemic. Pandemic had happened now, and I had booked a holiday to go see my parents that week. So I said to myself, let me go to Spain for a month, and when I come back, I will come back in a month. So I went to Spain now, and we know how the pandemic went. And not only that, when I had left to go to Spain, I was in a relationship. So I was in a relationship for nearly 2 years, and things didn't go too well. And then the relationship ended when I was in Spain. So nearly 3 years, 3-year relationship ended when I was in Spain. And the very, very next day, that like hit a switch in me. That hit a switch in me, and I said, I woke up, and then I contacted a videographer and I said, listen, I need you to do a video for me. He said, do you know what you want to do? I said, no, I don't. I said, but let's just shoot tomorrow. He's like, this is crazy. No one's ever said this before. We recorded a video, some on my Instagram. You can find it somewhere. And we started recording. I started to create content. I started to do a lot of things, and everything was going fine until one day one day, like, I just stopped and everything just sunk in, that I was in a new country, that my relationship ended, that because I had overstayed, I had to sort out my residency, I had to sort out paperwork. I was stuck in the country for 2 years, and all of that just got to me. So for like 1 month or 2 months, I was in a really bad state. I was like very emotional. I couldn't concentrate. Everything just felt so hard. It just felt so hard. And I remember one day I was just laying down on my bed, and I said to myself, like, I feel like I want to die. Like, what's the point? I was just so I just felt I didn't know how to control my emotions. And then when I said that, I literally said to myself, "What the fuck?" Like, I said to myself, I was like, What are you talking about?" This, it went literally from 1 second saying I want to die to, "What are you talking about?" That's exactly like the moment I woke up, because all of these emotions, or all these feelings I was creating for myself. There's a lot of things in life that you cannot control. But what you can control is how you react to these situations. You can't change. You can't change things you can't change the past. The past is the past. But what you can do is change how you move on forward. Boom. I started to use my Instagram as a place I can send a message, vent, and everything changed. I changed my mindset, and I said to myself, from today on, you will no longer feel like this. And it was just like that. And it was just like that. Sometimes we fixate ourselves so much on the problem, that we close our eyes to see everything else around us. And I realized the most important thing was I had to change the environment I was in. The environment that you're in is very important. You can't stay in that environment. So then I realized something has to change. One thing you guys need to realize is, if you want to change something, something has to change in you. If you don't change anything from your daily routines or habits, nothing will ever change. And that's one thing that sparked in me. I was very alone for most of the time while I was self-developing. How was I self-developing? I started to read books. When I started to read books, it just gave me so much clarity. It just helped me understand things and see things from a completely different perspective. I started to train regularly. I started to fix my eating habits. I started to learn how to educate myself on how to eat properly and how to maintain myself. And all of these things literally changed my life. Fast forward now, I started to create content. I started to enjoy the content I was creating. I was creating things that I done because I like to do. And the most important thing from everything that you get from training, you get a lot of qualities from training as a byproduct. You learn how to be disciplined. You learn how to be consistent. And you learn how to care about yourself. And this is why I push every single one of you to change your habits through fitness. Because as a byproduct, you get the body that you want. But that's not what interests you. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing out of training is the qualities that you achieve. Like I said, you achieve discipline, you achieve consistency, and you achieve that body that you want. Then fast forward, I posted a TikTok video and that went viral. I started to post another one and that went viral. And then it got to where we are now today. And thanks to that, and thanks to everything that has happened from the day I signed up, everything is a build up. I managed to be here and completely change my life. Like, if it wasn't for the steps I'd taken before to decide to go to the gym, I wouldn't have had the consistency to continue to make videos. If I hadn't learned to build discipline, to make sure that I posted, to make sure that I went to the gym, or make sure I stayed disciplined and do things that I wanted, not for the gratification of others, but things that I wanted to do, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So these are things that I want you to realize. The most important things for change is, number one, you need to change the environment that you're in. Because if you're not surrounded by things that can make you grow, these things are going to stop you from growing. So you need to change habits. Everything you're doing is a habit. If you go on your phone, that's a habit. What you eat, that's a habit. You need to make sure you have positive habits. This was my story. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Please comment down below any difficulties that you're going through, and I'll be answering every single one of them. If this story helped you, please like and subscribe. We are now doing a challenge 75 hard, where we have a community of like-minded people that are wanting to change their life through fitness. We have a free Telegram group chat where we share ideas and we encourage one another. The link is below. Or if you want, send me a DM on Instagram, DM me 75 hard, and I will get back to you and we'll be in contact. Thank you so much for listening. The time is late. I am tired. I'm doing this for you because honestly, I wanted to share my story, and I appreciate you guys for supporting, and I want you guys to change your life through fitness. With that being said, that is Sunwa. If you made this far, my name is Brandon, and we're out.